Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of What Happened. I'm your host, and today we're diving into something that absolutely nobody saw coming in the music world. When I say nobody, I mean even the biggest music industry insiders were caught completely off guard by what happened in February 2026. You know how the music industry usually works, right? Albums get announced months in advance. Singles drop with carefully orchestrated campaigns, and collaborations are teased endlessly on social media before they actually happen. Well, what if I told you that two of Latin music's biggest legends just completely threw that playbook out the window and shocked the entire industry in the process? Stick around because the story I'm about to tell you involves secret recording sessions, code names like Batman and Robin, a collaboration that was 7 years in the making, and a music video that immediately shot to #1 on YouTube's trending charts. This is the story of how Romeo Santos and Prince Royce pulled off the most surprising album drop of 2026, and why it's changing everything we thought we knew about bachata music. Let me set the scene for you. It's February 13th, 2026, and the music world is having a pretty typical Tuesday. Then suddenly, without any warning, without any promotion, without even a single leak, two music videos drop simultaneously featuring Romeo Santos, the undisputed king of bachata, and Prince Royce, known as the Prince of Bachata. Now, these aren't just any two artists deciding to work together. We're talking about two generational icons who have defined bachata music for the past 2 decades, but who have completely different styles, different fan bases, and different approaches to the genre. Romeo Santos, at 44, is the guy who single-handedly revived bachata when it was considered old-fashioned regional music. He took those traditional Dominican rhythms and gave them a sensual, contemporary twist that captivated a whole new generation. His voice, that distinctive, sweet, high-pitched tone, became the soundtrack to romance for millions of people. Prince Royce, on the other hand, represents a different evolution of bachata. His light lyric tenor and more pop-urban sound brought the genre into the mainstream in a completely different way. He's the artist who proved bachata could work on American radio, who showed that traditional Dominican music could compete with reggaeton and pop on a global scale. These two have been respectful of each other over the years, but they've also represented different paths for where bachata could go. Santos stayed closer to the traditional elements while adding his own modern flavor. Royce pushed the genre toward a more mainstream, radio-friendly direction. So when that music video for Dardos dropped on February 13th, featuring both of them together, the reaction was immediate and intense. Within hours, it had captured the #1 trending spot on YouTube's music category worldwide. Not just in Latin America, not just in the United States, but globally. But here's where the story gets really interesting. This wasn't just a single collaboration. This was the announcement of a complete joint album called Better Late Than Never. And when I say this was a surprise, I mean it was a surprise to everyone. No one in the music industry knew this was coming. No leaks, no rumors, no insider information. Even their closest collaborators were kept in the dark about the full scope of the project. In fact, when they were communicating with the director for the music video, Romeo Santos and Prince Royce used code names. Santos was Batman and Royce was Robin. That's how secretive they kept this entire project. But the secrecy wasn't just for dramatic effect. This collaboration had been attempted before, and it had failed. Multiple times. According to Santos himself, they had tried to work together at least 3 times since 2017, and each attempt had fallen through. He's even said that those previous attempts will probably never see the light of day. The timing just wasn't right, the creative chemistry wasn't there, or the business side couldn't be worked out. So, what changed? What made 2026 the right time for these two bachata legends to finally come together? The answer starts with a trip to St. Barts in 2023. Santos and Royce were there as friends, just hanging out, and they ended up writing a song together called Me Plan. It was spontaneous, organic, and for the first time, they felt like they had found a way to blend their different styles that actually worked. That song became the foundation for what would eventually become Better Late Than Never. But even then, they kept the project completely under wraps. They didn't announce it. They didn't tease it on social media. They didn't even tell their record labels the full scope of what they were planning. Instead, they spent months quietly working together, writing 4 songs as a duo and letting Santos take the lead on the others, while incorporating Royce's input and honest feedback. The result was something neither of them had created before, a true fusion of their different approaches to bachata that managed to honor the tradition while pushing it into completely new territory. Take Dardos, the lead single that exploded across YouTube. This isn't traditional bachata, but it's not pop either. It's R&B with Afrobeat influences, tropical rhythms, and layered guitars. The lyrics dive into Dominican slang and use astrology as a narrative device to describe a toxic relationship. It's the kind of experimental approach that could have completely backfired if fans felt like their favorite artists were abandoning what made them special. Instead, it became a massive hit because it felt like a natural evolution of what bachata could be. But Dardos is just one example of how adventurous this album gets. Jezebel blends R&B sensuality with reggaeton percussion, while telling what Santos describes as a cinematic story of passion and desire. It even incorporates elements of Puerto Rican bomba, paying homage to the Caribbean islands that shaped both artists' sound. Then there's Ay San Miguel, which is a Dominican palo, a completely traditional style that most mainstream bachata artists wouldn't touch. It's like Santos and Royce decided to show they could go in any direction they wanted, from the most experimental fusion to the most traditional roots. The album even includes surprises for the artists themselves. Santos brought in an emerging artist named Dalvin La Melodia for a song called Menor, but he didn't tell Dalvin that Royce was also going to be on the track. Imagine being an up-and-coming artist thinking you're just collaborating with Romeo Santos, and then discovering Prince Royce is also part of the project. When Better Late Than Never was officially released, the numbers were staggering. Dardos had already reached #1 in Spain and Mexico and earned gold certification in Spain before the full album even dropped. The music video had become one of the most watched Latin music videos of the year within its first week. But the real test came with the live performance. On February 19th, Santos and Royce took the stage together at Premio Lo Nuestro 2026, one of the biggest Latin music award shows of the year. They performed a medley of Dardos and Loquita por Mi, another track from the album, and the reaction was electric. Music industry observers called it one of the night's clearest genre legacy moments. Here were two artists proving that bachata doesn't need to chase trends or adapt to what's popular. When you're operating at their level, when you have that much skill and that much respect from audiences, you can command attention purely through the quality of what you create. The performance also served as an announcement for something else that nobody was expecting: their first joint tour. Starting in April 2026, Santos and Royce are taking Better Late Than Never on the road across North America, hitting major venues from Milwaukee to Las Vegas. This is significant because both artists are at points in their careers where they could easily sell out tours on their own. The fact that they're choosing to tour together suggests this collaboration is more than just a one-time project. They're positioning this as a major moment in both of their careers. But the success of Better Late Than Never represents something bigger than just two successful artists working together. It's a statement about where Latin music is heading in 2026. For years, the conversation around Latin music has been dominated by reggaeton, trap, and pop crossovers. Artists like Bad Bunny, J Balvin, and Rosalía have pushed Latin music into the global mainstream by incorporating elements from hip-hop, electronic dance music, and other genres. That's been incredibly successful, but it's also created a situation where traditional Latin genres like bachata, salsa, and merengue can sometimes feel like they're being left behind. Younger audiences might gravitate toward the more modern sounds, while traditional Latin music struggles to find its place in streaming playlists and on radio. What Santos and Royce have done with Better Late Than Never is prove that traditional genres don't need to be abandoned or completely transformed to remain relevant. Instead, they can be evolved, expanded, and enhanced while still maintaining their essential character. Dardos is a perfect example. Yes, it incorporates R&B and Afrobeat elements, but it's still recognizably bachata at its core. The guitar work, the rhythmic foundation, the emotional intensity, all of that is pure bachata tradition. The innovation comes in how those traditional elements are arranged, produced, and combined with influences from other genres. This approach is already influencing other Latin artists. Since Better Late Than Never dropped, there's been a noticeable increase in bachata-influenced tracks from artists who don't normally work in the genre. Producers are incorporating traditional bachata guitar patterns into reggaeton and pop tracks. Singers are experimenting with the kind of romantic, poetic lyricism that bachata is known for. It's like Santos and Royce have reminded the entire Latin music industry that there's still untapped potential in the traditional genres that form the foundation of Latin popular music. The timing of this reminder is particularly important because Latin music is going through a period of incredible global expansion. Streaming platforms are investing heavily in Latin content, major labels are signing more Latin artists, and audiences around the world are becoming more receptive to music in Spanish. In that environment, having artists like Santos and Royce demonstrate the continuing relevance and appeal of traditional genres is invaluable. It shows that Latin music's appeal isn't just about adapting to global trends, it's also about showcasing the richness and diversity of Latin musical traditions. The commercial success of Better Late Than Never is already being felt across the industry. According to Billboard, the album has been one of the most successful Latin releases of early 2026. The lead singles have dominated Latin radio, and the streaming numbers have exceeded expectations even for artists of Santos and Royce's caliber. But beyond the numbers, there's a sense that this collaboration has shifted something in the Latin music landscape. Other established artists are reportedly having conversations about similar partnerships. There's talk of cross-generational collaborations between salsa legends and contemporary artists, of merengue stars working with reggaeton producers, of regional Mexican artists exploring bachata influences. It's like Better Late Than Never has opened up a new set of possibilities for how Latin artists can work together, and how traditional genres can continue to evolve. Of course, not every aspect of the album's rollout has been perfect. Some critics have argued that certain tracks lean too heavily into experimentation and lose some of the emotional directness that makes bachata so powerful. Others have suggested that the surprise release strategy, while effective for generating buzz, didn't give fans enough time to properly anticipate and savor the collaboration. But these are relatively minor criticisms in the context of what Santos and Royce have accomplished. They've created an album that honors their respective legacies while pushing both of them into new creative territory. They've demonstrated that surprise releases can work even for traditional genres and established artists. And they've shown that there's still a massive audience for bachata music when it's presented with the right combination of tradition and innovation. Looking ahead, the success of Better Late Than Never raises some interesting questions about what comes next for both artists. For Santos, this collaboration represents a fascinating evolution in his approach to bachata. He's always been willing to experiment, but working with Royce seems to have pushed him to explore sounds and arrangements he might not have considered on his own. The question is whether he'll incorporate some of these influences into his solo work, or whether this collaborative style will remain something he only explores when working with other artists. For Royce, the album might represent an opportunity to reconnect with the bachata roots that originally made him famous. In recent years, he's moved increasingly toward mainstream pop, which has been commercially successful but has also distanced him from the bachata community. Better Late Than Never shows he can still operate at the highest level within the genre while bringing his pop sensibilities to enhance rather than replace the traditional elements. For bachata as a genre, this collaboration could be the beginning of a major revival. If other artists follow the example set by Santos and Royce, combining respect for tradition with willingness to innovate, we could see bachata become a much more prominent part of the global Latin music conversation. And for the Latin music industry as a whole, Better Late Than Never demonstrates that there are still untapped opportunities for collaboration and cross-pollination between different styles, generations, and approaches within Latin music. The album has also sparked conversations about the relationship between established artists and emerging talent. The fact that Santos and Royce brought in Dalvin La Melodia for Menor suggests they're thinking about how to use their platforms to elevate newer voices in bachata. This kind of mentorship and collaboration could be crucial for ensuring the continued vitality of traditional Latin genres. As we move deeper into 2026, it will be interesting to see whether Better Late Than Never inspires similar collaborations in other genres. Will we see reggaeton legends working together on surprise albums? Will salsa icons unite for unexpected projects? Will regional Mexican stars explore cross-genre collaborations? The success of this album suggests that there's still a strong appetite for music that combines tradition with innovation, that honors the past while pushing toward the future. In an industry that often seems obsessed with chasing the next trend, Santos and Royce have reminded everyone that sometimes the most powerful move is to go deeper into your roots while being brave enough to see where those roots can take you. That's it from me today, everyone. The Romeo, Santos, and Prince Royce collaboration has been one of the most pleasant surprises in music this year, and I have a feeling we're going to be talking about its impact for a long time to come. These two artists have shown that when legends unite, they can create something that's bigger than the sum of their individual parts. What did you think about Better Late Than Never? Were you as surprised as everyone else when it dropped? Do you think this will inspire more collaborations between bachata artists? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing your thoughts on these music industry developments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of 2026's biggest music surprises, please give this video a like. It really helps with the algorithm and shows me that you want more content about the stories behind the music industry's most unexpected moments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. We're covering the music stories that matter, the collaborations that surprise us, and the artists who keep pushing boundaries in unexpected ways. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep listening, keep discovering, and keep being surprised by the incredible music that artists create when they step outside their comfort zones.